So I did the research for this episode. I really did. I went looking for the data, the studies, the science, the whole thing. And what I found does not support what I'm about to argue. No, not argue. Have a conversation about.
I'm
Like
glad you
I don't.
already agreed that this is an argument before we started.
But I'm still going to argue it because I think there is a difference between what the data says and what life actually looks like. And today we are talking about life.
The data is life.
Okay.
Welcome to Heart Unfiltered. I'm Teresa and he is.
Yusuf.
And today we're going somewhere that's going to make some of you uncomfortable. I'm already uncomfortable. I'm geared up.
I just having a conversation though.
Okay. You heard him say argument the first time, so everybody knows I'm not the crazy one.
Okay.
Anyway, we're talking about men, women, logic, and emotion. And before anyone comes for Yusuf, not for me, he's not here to be right because he's not right. I'm here to be honest, and he's
Well,
here to try his best.
okay, we'll see. So okay. Okay, so let me tell you what I actually mean. I'm not talking about IQ. I'm not talking about who's smarter. I'm not talking about who's more intelligent. That's a different conversation. And honestly, I find that very boring. You get? I'm talking about the observable behavior, the stuff we see in real life, in real moments. And the one thing I keep coming back to is what happens when things go wrong. When something actually goes wrong, not a small inconvenience. I mean something real. Who do people call? I've asked myself this question a lot, and the answer almost every time is a man. Not because men are smarter, but because there's an expectation, a very specific expectation that a man will assess the situation first, then feel later. And that, whether we like it or not, looks like logic to me.
I'm glad that you used the word expectation. And look, see, I get what you're saying, but I think that you're already making an assumption. We're assuming that the person who looks calm is the person who is being logical. And I know that that is not always true. Because when something goes wrong, yes, a lot of people might call a man, but is that because men are more logical or because society has now trained us to see men as protectors and problem solvers? Those are necessarily the same thing. Honestly, I've seen plenty of women hold families together during crisis. It is more common. And please, if you're listening, I would like for you to comment and be truthful to yourself. Women are the ones who manage sick parents mostly. They run households, they are raising the children, they are handling finances and making
Emotional.
impossible decisions every day. You don't call that logic, you call it caregiving. But if a man did the same thing, would call him strong, would call him rational, would call him well rounded. So I think that part of this conversation is about perception.
Okay.
We've decided that certain behaviors look logical and certain behaviors look emotional or maternal. And I'm not convinced that we're applying that standard equally.
Okay, I hear you. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's what we've trained ourselves to see as default. And that expectation is exactly what I want to pull apart today. So it's not just the danger, right? Watch what happens in a company when things go sideways. Someone gets fired, a project collapses, the numbers are bad, and you watch who holds the meeting, who keeps the team together, who compartmentalize long enough to get through the thing and fall apart in private later. That tends to be men. And I know someone's about to say, that's just toxic masculinity. And maybe it is, but in that moment, in the room, it functions as composure, it functions as logic.
That was interesting.
Okay, tell me.
You're still confusing composure with logic. Someone can be calm and still make a terrible decision. Someone can be emotional and still make an excellent one. Those things are not opposites. And when you say men compartmentalize and get through the meeting, I agree. A lot of men do, but I don't think the story ends there. My question is, what happens after the meeting? What happens after the crisis? What is even the consequence of that decision? What happens after everybody goes home? Because getting through a moment is one thing, getting through the meeting is one thing, or processing the moment is another thing. And I think that's where men and women are very different. Women are most likely to talk things through, seek support, revisit what happened, and actually process the emotional impact. A lot of men are told to keep going, keep functioning, keep producing, and that is what is you guys are, or majority of people are looking at as logical. And sometimes what's actually happening is that the emotion is not dealt with, it is postponed or swept under the carpet. It doesn't even mean that you resolve it. And these decisions that you're talking about, they are not usually the best decisions. When you look at consequences or whatever it attracts, decisions might not be fair and they might not be actually good solutions.
Oh, your point is valid, but here is what I want to sit with, right? If the socialization produces the behavior, right? If men have been termed to be more logical than women, doesn't matter where it comes from. If I'm calm in the room because I was taught to be calm or because I was too scared to show anything else, does the outcome change? I mean, the meeting still happened, the team still got through it, and it doesn't matter whether it was like fake composure or it was logical.
Okay, let's now talk about research. Since you're still arguing from what seems to be,
Conversation.
since you're still talking about what seems to be,
Okay.
when psychologists look at decision making, they don't find evidence that men are inherently more logical than women. Thank
Okay.
God you said you looked at the data. I did too. What they often find is that women score higher in emotional intelligence. And before you roll your eyes, because there is emotional attached to this intelligence. Let's be clear what emotional intelligence means. Emotional intelligence means you accurately read situations, or it means accurately reading situations, understanding motivations, recognizing patterns in behavior, anticipating the consequences, which is what I've been asking you, the consequences of this decision, managing relationships. And these are decision making skills. This is working with information, working with data. If I'm making a decision and I'm considering the facts, the numbers, the people involved, and the likely reactions and long term consequences, not immediate resolution, and the emotional impact, am I being less logical? I'm waiting for your answer.
Okay.
Or am I working with data? Logic is not about removing emotion. Logic is about interpreting reality accurately. And emotions are part of reality. It's not our fault y'all don't get to feel yours.
Okay, I hear that. And I don't actually disagree with the data because I told you at the start, the data doesn't back me up. But here is my honest question, yeah. If women are more logical by every measure that you just, give, why does the gap between the data and what we see in real life exist? Like, who created that gap and why does it keep closing in one direction?
Who created what gap, Yusuf?
The gap of men
What
being
you
more
see in
logical
data
than
and real
women.
life. Yusuf, where is data gotten from? Okay, that means you said you've looked at data because you wanted to be factual, but now you're like rejecting the facts because you're saying that data and real life, they don't correlate in your own opinion. And hold on, you've I think, let me not say you, because this is not an argument and I'm not attacking you. I think we've confused emotional expression with emotional instability. They are not
Okay.
the same thing. In fact, the person who expresses more is even a more stable person. The person crying is processing. The person who is completely fine might not be processing. We just assume they are because they are quieter. They are composed. Steez, composure, everything. They appear to look like they've got it all together. And women are judged for expressing emotions that men are allowed to hide. Not because men don't have these emotions or men even choose to hide these emotions. And the society again, the patriarchal society created by men, as it is you that created all of this,
Because we're
and
more
you people are the
logical.
one that is complaining. No, and the funny thing about it is you people do not even see that patriarchy works against you yourself. You are meant to be a man. You shouldn't cry. You shouldn't express. You should get your shit together. Oh, sorry. This is a non-explicit podcast. You should get your stuff together, and meanwhile you're not allowed to express. You're dying on the inside,
Mm.
and that's why men have higher rate of suicide than women.
Okay. But let's say you are right. Let's say the system is the problem, right? That still doesn't explain why, even in spaces where women have full authority and power, that same pattern tends to show up.
How many women have led countries into war? How many women? So you're saying don't come and say that.
Okay.
So please retract it.
Okay, I retract the statement. But like, okay, I want to actually tell you something that broke my thinking on this whole thing, because I came into this episode thinking I had a clean argument, and then I thought about breakups.
Mm.
Right, it takes women on average about 21 days to start getting over a breakup. 21 days. Men take longer, significantly longer. But here's the part that got me. Yeah, when the breakup happens, men seem fine, like immediately fine, moving on, back out, posting, and women are devastated. And I used to read that as women are more emotional, men are more logical. I mean, we move on faster. But that's not what's happening, is it? Women aren't slower, they're just honest about it. They process it in real time and then they actually leave it. Men delay it, we push it down. We function around it. We call that moving on. And then 6 months later, we are still not over someone we told everyone we were fine about. So who's actually being more logical here?
Yeah,
The
I like
person who
how
feels it
okay.
when it happens and then closes the chapter, or the person who keeps the chapter open for years while pretending the book is finished.
Thank you very much for being on my side and proving my point without knowing it. And this is the first thing you said today that makes me question your entire argument or whatever I was into. Because what you just described does not sound like logic. It sounds like what I've been saying since delayed processing. And I don't mean that as a criticism of men. I love men. I love you all. I actually think it's sad. I think it's very sad because men are often taught that being okay or seeming okay is more important than actually becoming okay. And women are given more permission to grieve, to actually lean into our natural human tendencies, to cry, to fall apart, to lean on people, to, lean into community. And it's messy. It might not look okay for the most part, but eventually we walk through these states and the emotion moves through. It's not static, it moves through and it moves on. A lot of men never get to do that. They don't get to do that and they carry things much longer than people realize. And if we're talking about logic, I would argue that facing reality hurts. When it hurts, is more logical than pretending you are unaffected by it. It's more logical because no matter how hard, comfortable, or painful it is, you're actually doing the work because you know, and that is the best way to go, the thing to do, and that is logical.
Fair enough. So here is where I actually, land on this. I think men are more emotional than we let on. I feel like we feel everything. I just think we've built an entire identity. There's a system around not showing it, and then we started confusing the marks for the face. And I think the world saw that mask and called it logic, and we were happy to let them. So I have some, questions. Is composure the same thing as logic, or we have just decided that it is? What do you think?
Composure is not the same thing as logic. Have you been listening to me at all? Composure is not the same thing as logic, and I don't think men are more. Oh, I am grinding my teeth when I say this, but I would agree that women aren't more logical than men, and men aren't more logical than women.
Okay.
And I don't think um, women are more emotional than men. I think men and women are emotional human beings.
Fair enough.
And the difference is that women are more likely to process their emotions, and processing your emotions is part of being logical. It's part of, doing the rights and the required thing, while men are mostly encouraged to manage them and not process them. And they are not the same thing. Managing an emotion helps you survive
Mm.
that moment. Processing helps you heal from it.
In the long run, yeah.
Yes. And please, always what you think is logical or what you think is a logical solution brought up by a man. I'm sorry. You know what? I'm actually being calm. No, this is going to be an argument. Why do you think they say behind every great man is a what?
Because we did that emotional part, so it takes up the
Oh,
logical
so
part.
you don't have your emotions installed in you. You guys missed the software or the hardware or whatever. That's because I'm sorry to say, evaluate a man's solution or a man's logical conclusion and evaluate that of a woman. You would see that there's not much difference when it is backed by actual data,
Fair enough.
when it is thought through. Gender does not contribute to sensibility.
Fair. Fair points. I think I came into this episode ready to win an argument, and I leave you thinking maybe men aren't more logical. Maybe we are just better at pretending we're not falling apart, and women aren't more emotional. Maybe they are just more honest about it. And between hiding it and being honest about it, I think we both know which one is actually the smarter move. Just haven't been brave enough to call it.
Anyway, what I'm going to say is I'm not going to be like Yusuf and give. I don't know if anybody can make a video, put an emotional montage and sad music to his closing argumentative statements. I'm not going to do all that. I want to challenge your thinking. Think about it. Because I know a lot of people are out there saying men are logical than women, women are more emotional than men. But think about what logic actually is. If you've mistaken emotional control for emotional understanding, and think about how you can be more regulated and not doing man versus woman.
All right, that is at Unfiltered. I'll pretend I didn't hear that. We don't always have the answers, but we always show up honest. So I'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye.
Bye bye.